What if I no longer saw myself as an isolated little ant crawling around for survival in this huge ant heap, but as a meaningful and genuine part of a larger whole, and that unity is unshakable? Now, psychedelics, psilocybin, specifically, but not exclusively, get to a part of ourselves that usually we're not in access of. So they get to the unconscious part while we're conscious. So we get to experience our unconscious while conscious. And we can see what's in there. Now, why on the physiological level the psychedelics do that, I have to keep looking it up. I'm not keeping in my head the particular neuroscience and brain physiology that's involved. But clearly parts of the brain are being activated that are usually are shut down or we have no access to. And so psilocybin has been used in two ways. It's been used as single, fairly large dose experiences. And through those experiences, people get in touch with parts of themselves they usually have no access to. For example, they might have a deep spiritual experience, a deep experience of unity, a deep experience of their true self, part of their real self that usually are shut down from their daily experience. Well, that could be tremendously healing. What if I no longer saw myself as an isolated little ant crawling around for survival in this huge ant heap, but as a meaningful and genuine part of a larger whole, and that unity is unshakable, no matter what happens to me and no matter what I feel at a particular moment? What if I could be conscious of that unity? It gives you a totally different experience of life. So, along with this other psychedelics, psilocybin can do that. And what's striking is that it doesn't matter what the psychedelic experience. When people describe their experience of unity, it's all the same language. And it's all the same language if people get there without psychedelics. So either everybody's hallucinating and everybody's crazy, or they're having some genuine experience of something that's deeper than our usual consciousness can permit. And that's what happens, I believe, with psilocybin. Then people also use it, and this is still experimental, on a microdose level, where people are not using it to have this deep experience. In fact, they might have an amount that doesn't even give them an altered consciousness in the short term, but over a couple of weeks, microdosing, where they might use for 2-3 days and then not use for a few days, but in a small, barely perceptible dose, it alters their brain physiology in such a way that they're no longer addicted. In which case, they're using it like an antidepressant. The difference is they don't have to use it every day, they use small quantities, and they don't have side effects, which, and I've taken antidepressants, I'm not against them, but you know, they do come with side effects sometimes. Well, the risk is really only that if people have experiences they can't handle and leaves them unmoored. So these experiences, these plants traditionally, and the mushrooms have been used traditionally by native peoples. Ayahuasca has been used traditionally by native peoples. Iboga has been used traditionally by native peoples in Africa and Latin America and North America, peyote and so on. But there's always in a context, always under the guidance of very experienced elders who've been through their own experience. Now in our world, we tend to be kind of anarchistic and individualistic. Sometimes people might use these substances who are not ready for it, who have not been prepared for it, and it might release emotions and visions in them that they don't know how to integrate and how to handle. So I've seen a few people lose it as a result of psychedelic experiences. I've not seen personally, I know of some, but I've not seen any tragic outcomes, but I've seen some difficult outcomes. So the risk is using it when you're not prepared and not under appropriate guidance. Now, some of these substances should also not be used with certain people with various mental health conditions. For example, if you have a history of mania, you better not use ayahuasca, I don't think, because it can trigger your mania, or LSD for that matter. Unless you're working with somebody who's very confident and can be with you over time and integrate and hold whatever happens to you. So again, it depends on context, but there are certain contraindications. I've had deep experiences with psychedelics, really deep insights. I thought I understood the world. And I talk about this. Maybe 10 years ago, I led a retreat with ayahuasca. And under the impact of the plant, I was really a guru. I mean, I was really right on. I was, insightful and compassionate, and I could see through people's stuff, and I could guide them to reality. And I thought, okay, hey, I've made it, folks. Then I arrive home, and my wife just picks him up at the train station, and she just had a haircut that I was totally upset by. All of a sudden, life wasn't worth living because of this haircut that my wife had. So this is how enlightened I got, That's all of a sudden, I look at my partner, and I don't like what I see, and all of a sudden, I get all discombobulated. And that's my particular neurosis. But that ayahuasca experience and all the insights I had did not liberate me from my neurosis, or having to have my woman looking a certain way. That's how dependent I still was. So the greatest insights and experiences lead you nowhere unless you integrate them. And as you say, that integration takes work. And so what I've learned, and what I emphasize more and more now, in fact, what I emphasize most now, is the experience opens the door, but you're the one who has to walk through the door. And having the window open or the door open does not get you to the other side, and that's a lot of work. And so it's like with every other kind of spiritual work. You can also have great realizations on the meditation cushion. And people do have these direct experiences of Godhood, but it leads them nowhere unless it transforms their lives. And for it to transform their lives, those intentions and those insights, those intuitions need to be integrated. And that's daily work. And there's nothing that substitutes for daily work. And I have to say to people, if it's a question of having great insights on the one hand or daily regular work on the other, choose the daily work. Forget the great insights, forget the great experiences. Now, if you can combine the two, powerful support, one for the other. But the work is the key. The work may be different for everybody, but it does involve some disengagement from the daily grind, some time that's devoted to your core essence or to exploring it. So for me, and with my ADHD, I was never a great meditator. I mean, I could sit there on a meditation cushion, and if I was present for 10 seconds out of 20 minutes, I could declare victory. However, I've also thought I wasn't a yoga person, but 2 years ago, I found a yoga practice that if I don't do daily now, I suffer. And when I do it, it really supports me. It puts me in touch with my body, it stills my mind, and it provides a break to my constantly running egoic mind, so that I experience myself as somebody different than just somebody who's always engaged in thought and talk and process. So that's my particular way. Journaling, which is observing yourself and writing about it, so that there's that observer self that you're actually strengthening. An observer self is not the same as the daily, rattled, ordinary self. Group work. The Buddha talked about the Dharma, the Sangha, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha meaning our inner two selves, the Dharma being the path, the Sangha being community. Are you having contact with others who are on the same path? Or do you just belong to a bunch of Facebook groups where you discuss what are the odds of Leicester City winning the FA Cup again? So is there some connection with others who are on the same path? For some people it'll be meditation. For some people it'll be communing with nature. For some people, it'll be revisiting the psychedelic experience, but without the plant, without the drug, without the substance, just putting themselves in that space on a daily basis. Some kind of practice, which has to be regular.